That's a pretty straightforward melody. I wonder if I could sight read that if I had to. I wonder how people get good at sight reading. Let's talk about it with your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips. It's time to learn about music. It's time for Music Student 101.
Hey Matt, happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Jeremy.
It is Monday for us, but of course for our listeners it'll probably be Sunday because that's when I try to release these things.
Yeah, probably. So we're from a week in the past.
Oh!
Time travel.
As we do. Hey, speaking of the past, I want to back up a little bit, Matt.
Yeah.
A couple of episodes ago, the episode we did on the Overtone series, we had some really cool intro music.
Yeah.
And that was actually your composition.
Yes, it was.
And we've used your compositions many times before.
Yep.
But this is kind of fresh and new, isn't it?
It is pretty fresh, yeah. It was composed, it was composed and performed back in April.
Uh-huh.
And it was done at the Abrams Ingalls Institute for the Visual Arts on the campus of the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Mm-hmm. They do a great program there called Chamber Music at AIVA, A-E-I-V-A, every once in a while. And the idea behind this was to write music inspired by the artwork of the artist whose art was in the gallery at that time. Mm-hmm. The artist's name is David Leventhal.
Okay.
And he does a lot of photography of action figures and toys and Barbie dolls and things like that. But they're always acting out. Well, not always, but they're often acting out very unchildlike or toy-like scenes. You know, they're going to war or they're fighting or.
Okay.
Things like that. Or what you were thinking. There's a couple of it. There are a couple like that too. So I wrote the piece based on that art. Called it inspired by that art. Called it the cold comfort of toys. Mm-hmm. You know, meaning sort of trying to set a mood in which we were setting up something toy-like, or artificial that way in order to try to cope with or comprehend some of the darker natures of humanity.
Yeah.
And just trying to kind of set the mood of someone trying to go out and do that. So it's not a very settled piece, but it has its moments, I suppose. And, it sounded kind of overtony, which is why.
Yeah.
Which is why we use it for some reason.
Episode number 46, Overtone series. Go back and give that a listen. We use it to open and close the episode.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate it. Every now and then I like to give Jeremy a break. Most of the time, the bumper music is written and recorded and performed by our very own Jeremy Burns, except for those rare occasions when, well, either A, we have a guest whose music we're doing, or B, I have some new recording and say, hey, use this.
Well, it's exciting to have new material, and I think it's cool to keep our audience abreast of said material.
Absolutely, and hopefully I can put some more of my compositions at the forefront in episodes to come.
Because you have some new things coming up too, don't you?
I do.
That's exciting.
Always.
Well, awesome. The Cold Comfort of Toys. That was a really good one. I'm glad you were able to send that to me because I was struggling that week myself. So
I've been told I have a penchant for titles.
Yeah.
I think sometimes maybe my titles are more compelling than my music, but
I don't know about
we'll
that.
let you be the judge.
I got a good feeling from a cold, comforting feeling from that one myself. Cold comfort. Okay, man. So we have some great news. We have a new review on iTunes.
Yay!
And I guess if you review us on iTunes, it just stays on iTunes. It doesn't transfer to other.
Probably not, but it does help boost our visibility on iTunes.
It absolutely does, and I think people are finding us quicker because of that.
Yes.
Let me read this out to you.
Okay.
It says this is from M. McDowell 23. Kind of a normal compared to most of the rest of our strange reviewers' names. This podcast has become one in my regular rotation. I binge listened to most of the back episodes when I came across it and found a lot of the information helpful in reviewing what I learned in my music education as an undergraduate and hadn't considered much in the past 12 years. I also appreciate the way they dialogue with one another and make things easy to understand.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for that kind review. We do what we can, and we always love it when we hear people say, "Hey, I haven't played in years, I haven't thought about this stuff in years," and inspires going back to it, rekindle some passion. That's always great. That's what we're here for.
And a lot of people are saying that we are clarifying a lot of things for them, so that's great.
I certainly hope so.
Now, I wonder if this M. McDowell is a certain McDowell that I've been speaking to a little bit lately. And if it is, we're going to hear more from him in our saxophone episode because he is a saxophonist.
Oh, awesome. And if it's not, it's just somebody that likes our podcast, and that is awesome. So
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again for that review, M. McDowell 23.
Thank you very much. We also have a new Patreon patron.
2 of them, actually.
2 new Patreon patrons. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have Christopher Freiberg, who's
Yes.
out of Los Angeles.
Very nice.
I was only able to contact them and get enough information. I mean, I was only able to contact them in time to thank them and get permission to use their name.
Sure.
But we're going to learn more from Christopher Freiberg, Christopher with a K, Freiberg.
Wonderful.
Hopefully in the near future.
Can't wait to learn more about Christopher. We also have another patron here, Mitch Levesque.
And Mitch Levesque hails from Wayne, Maine.
Wayne, Maine. Nice.
It rhymes.
Yeah.
You can make a song about him.
Yes, you could. So I can just read this off.
Go right ahead, man.
I have been listening to your podcast for about a year and have gotten so much out of it. I'm 33 years old, and over the years, I've gone through several periods of attempting to learn guitar and piano. I've used books, online resources, and even a short stint of taking lessons. I could never fully get into it, though, because I didn't understand the, quote, why behind all of the chord shapes on the guitar or the keys that were played together on the piano. I researched music theory online, but I could never really make sense of it. It never clicked for me until I discovered your podcast. I binge listened through all of your early music theory episodes on harmony, rhythm, scales, and chord building. Yes, and go back and listen to all of those episodes if you haven't.
Each one a fine one.
Yes, and got a completely new understanding of music theory. The way you guys talk through the theory concepts makes it so much easier to understand. It's also entertaining to listen to you guys play off of each other. It has to be. It just has to be. This is just us, by the way. We're not really doing anything special.
If we're having a pint, we'd be doing the same thing.
Pretty much, yeah. Just louder.
And even faster and more enthusiastic.
And even faster and more enthusiastically, yeah. I know you started the podcast geared towards actual music students, but I hope you'll move towards amateur musicians and people just starting. I think you have a lot to offer to that group. I've also enjoyed the podcast you've done on working in various aspects of the music industry. Excellent. Thank you so much, Mitch. We always love to hear this. And a couple of things. One, I think we're definitely moving towards talking to amateur musicians, music enthusiasts, and people, because I feel like I agree with Mitch. We have a lot to offer that group.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I do feel it's kind of emphasizing that group more, not to neglect our current music students. In fact, today's episode is probably going to be something that they find very helpful. Hopefully, find very helpful.
Yes, and actually, if you're just coming in on this episode because you looked up sight singing or sight reading,
right?
You should know that we take this from a certain order, a certain sequence. So if you go back to our first episode,
yes,
it's way basic and very
very basic, very dipping a toe in, and with our theory episodes too, we're kind of starting basic and sort of moving along as we progress. So nice and slowly. Also, he talks about a lot of the other stuff Mitch does that he tried that kind of didn't work for him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why we decided to start doing this, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of looked at it and goes, there's nothing that's really good.
Yeah.
Right?
A theory book can't compete with the amount of banter and good times that we're having here.
Not
on the podcast.
even close. They're very dry. And hey, take it from me. I've read more theory books than most people out there in the world, and they're a great resource. But for someone who doesn't have the benefit of being in a class with a good professor, it can be daunting to try to get through those. Lessons sometimes are geared towards just making your fingers do a thing, and like Mitch is saying, you don't always understand, well, why do my fingers do this thing? Why do these notes go together, whereas these other notes, not as much?
Yeah.
And so that's part of why we're doing this. So it's gratifying to hear that we're succeeding, at least in Mitch's case. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you for your donation as well.
Indeed.
That's on patreon.com. Just search Music Student 101.
Yes. Keep us in coffee.
Keep us in coffee.
Because coffee is required for this podcast.
It is. So we had the new review, we had the new patron, and now we have, real quick, some listener mail. So this comes from a gentleman, Matthew Frederick, who is from Ipswich, Massachusetts.
Nice.
Matthew Frederick plays guitar and banjo, and he says, quote, whatever other orphaned stringed instruments I can convince my girlfriend we have room to keep in our tiny apartment.
Nice. Very nice. Go for the ukulele. Very, very, very small, very compact.
Mandolin
she won't
is
even
great.
know mandolin.
Yeah, man.
She won't even know you bought it.
But the struggle is real. That is a thing. That is a thing. It's made fun of on videos and such, and little viral videos. But it is a thing.
Oh yeah. Can you imagine being a harpist?
Gosh, we got to find a balance. Make everybody happy. Keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
But keep the music flowing, right?
Yeah. My amplifier is currently sitting in our bedroom, and my significant other is currently less than happy about that.
Well, Matthew goes on to say, hey guys, I love your podcast. I just finished getting caught up on the series. It's gotten me through many a dull day at the office. So thank you so much for all of your hard work. I have been working with some of the apps you recommended for ear training. I guess that was episode 4, right?
Probably.
And I've noticed that my rhythmic dictation skills are, well, abysmal, to put it lightly. Abysmal? Are you sure?
I doubt they're abysmal.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Mine were pretty abysmal at some point, and they still kind of just above abysmal. I'll tell you my little story.
Junior, intermediate, abyss.
Yeah, right.
Midway in the...
He says, I wonder if you might have some suggestions for exercises, apps, reading methods, or whatever that may help in reading and writing rhythm. So thanks again for everything you're doing, says Matt Frederick. Now, I actually got back with Matt, and I mentioned an app that I'm going to talk about at the end of this episode. It's called Musician, as in Y-O-U-Zician.
Right. All one word?
Yeah. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. I found it to be a pretty good help in reading music, which also kind of is this part of the two sides of the same coin. Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can... Helping to read music is going to greatly help you analyze what you hear.
And vice versa.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
So they both feed into each other. And he was actually, he had found Musician, but he didn't realize that you can go in there and change. They have these little color code things on notation. So it's almost like tablature for piano.
Okay.
But there is a way to switch it to general notation.
Yeah.
So you're actually reading music.
Yeah.
So other than that, what do you think, Matt? Is there any, aside from just getting right into this episode?
Aside from just getting right into this episode, which will help, rhythm specifically. To me, the trick is to always have that beat clicking away in your head. So notice the time signature. Definitely, right? If you're in 3/4, that's going to be 3 beats for a measure. So, 3 beats that are organized by the music in a particular way. Have that, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Have that sort of clicking away in the back of your brain, so that when you hear notes coming in, you can hear the subdivisions. That they make sense as subdivisions of each other.
Yeah.
You're hearing them not just in space, which is going to make your rhythmic dictation abysmal, sadly, right?
Yeah.
But to but to hear them in the context of that, and most of the apps you mentioned will, start you off with 1 or 2 measures of just a click.
Yeah.
When you're doing a rhythm dictation. I know McGammett does that. And I know Teoria.com does that.
Little
and
pre-roll.
musictheory.net, I would imagine, So, and then once you have that click going, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
3.
Triplets.
Triplets. Ooh.
Anyway, you get the idea. If you have that clicking in the back of your mind, tap your foot, count along, do whatever. Get what is falling on the beat, and then everything else is in between the beat. And with a little practice and with a little sort of bending your brain towards this process, you'll start to get better at it. Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, but you also mentioned rhythm becomes a corporal experience.
Yeah.
Almost kind of feeling it.
It's a body, really all of music, but rhythm especially, is this, it's a thing that comes from the body, right? After a while you start to feel a rhythm. You start to feel a pulse. It's not necessarily an entirely intellectual exercise, right? And learning to feel that comes from practice and struggle. Yeah.
Struggle indeed. Speaking of struggles, I have a great little story for you.
All right, let's hear it.
Story time, everybody.
Story time.
So, after I graduated 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. And it was around 2005 where I said to myself, I can't read quite as well as I thought I might be able to read, having gone through a degree in music, right?
Right.
And so I told myself, I was just still a bassist, but I wanted to get into melody, so I decided I was going to invest in a bouzouki, which is like a mandolin family instrument. It's tuned just like a mandolin, only the scale length is way longer, like a guitar.
Yeah.
And I figured that was going to be how I was going to learn melody. And I was going to spend a lot of money. Well, $1,800 is a lot of money to a lot of people. And to me back then, just out of college, it was huge. That's like a car.
Yeah.
And I said to justify spending this kind of money on this instrument, when I get this instrument, and even before, I'm going to learn 100 melodies from various, and I was playing a lot of Irish music at the time, so 80% of these were jigs, slip jigs, reels, polkas, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But when I finally got done, I did it. I kept to it, and when I finally got done with all 100 of those things, my goal, I kind of looked back at a new piece of music, and I was like, I still can't read this quite as well. Granted, there was a noticeable difference.
It probably was a lot faster, that trip from this is just a bunch of black dots on a page to, well, there's a music here.
Yeah, because now I can immediately notice themes and motives for the most part.
Yeah.
But that brings us into this episode. Again, like I say, we're going to talk about sight reading.
Sight reading, yes.
Mainly.
Which is defined in the strictest sense as the very first time you see a piece of music. Right?
Yeah.
Is the only time you're sight reading.
So let's make a distinction between sight reading and reading music.
Okay.
Go right ahead. And that's basically what you just said.
That's basically what I just said, yeah. Sight reading is the very first time.
Yeah.
Is playing something that you are looking at sight unseen.
Uh-huh.
Whereas reading music is just having the music there and reading it, presumably something you've practiced before.
So you really haven't had as much sight reading practice as you think you have.
You really haven't.
Because it only happens the very first time you lay eyes on a fresh piece of music.
Let's be generous to say the first 1 to 5 times.
Oh, okay, that's a little
you're
more
effectively
generous.
sight reading something.
Before you start to memorize things?
Before you start to memorize things. And at that point, even if you're still reading the music in front of you, you're also relying on your memory. So sight reading is a very in the moment kind of thing.
But the virgin press of the olive oil that is sight reading mainly occurs on that very first glance, right?
Right.
There's other less viscous presses.
And as intimidating, as ridiculous as that sounds, musicians are required to do this all the time. And I do mean all the time. If you're playing in a jazz quartet, for example, you will easily and often come to practice and have a new piece of music put down in front of you for you to play. Maybe you've seen it before, maybe you haven't, but it's put down to play, and you're just going to annoy everybody else if you're the one person who can't play it the first time.
Yeah.
If you're in an orchestra, forget about it. Most orchestras, you think of them playing these huge symphonies by Beethoven or Brahms or what have you. Most of the time they'll get, if the concert is on Friday night, they will start rehearsing as an orchestra Wednesday.
Man, you're kidding me.
No. Yeah. So just the nature of their quick scheduling turnaround is going to invoke some sight reading.
They don't get to like the books ahead of time and just go home and do their homework, and then surely
they do. Yeah. In the idealist of situations, that's what has happened.
But a truly gifted sight reader.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the things that can be expected from a truly from a truly learned
from an accomplished
sight reader.
Yeah.
Basically, you not only need to be able to read the notes as they come, or just looking at them and reading like you would like I read listener mail.
Yeah.
Hopefully better than I read listener mail, because I always had to go back and edit my fumbles. But it's not only that, but you need to be able to transpose.
Yeah.
That's expected of a lot of accompanists, like piano accompanists.
Oh yeah. Go play a church gig.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, like if you're playing something that's already been written by Bach or whatever.
Yeah, that's one thing.
You're not going to be transposing that.
Yeah, you're not transposing that. But go play a church gig. Mm-hmm. Go be the pianist or organist at your church. And one day the preacher or whoever says, E flat is too difficult a key for the congregation. Can you try it in B flat?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, we want to sing this today. Flop.
Oops.
What is this?
Give me 30 minutes and some coffee.
Yeah. Not really an option sometimes,
no.
So the ability to transpose, which, we've talked about a little bit before, but it is the ability to sort of see it in one key while playing it in another.
Yeah.
So you're having to think not in terms of notes necessarily, but in terms of scale degrees.
Yeah.
Right? So you're thinking not this is B flat, D, F, but this is in the key of B flat, Do, Mi, Sol.
Uh-huh.
Scale degree 1, scale degree 3, scale degree 5.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth.
Right. And we did do an episode on transposition actually not too long ago, and we were mainly referring to the art of, or the action of, finding a piece, kind of knowing all the chords, and then changing that to another key.
And then change that to another key. Yeah, we didn't get into sight transposing.
Not sight transposing, which is what this is, but basically that is what it is.
Which we had to do to get our degrees.
We did, man.
Do you remember that?
I can't believe I did that. I don't think I could do that today. My mind was nice and
fertile.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Nice and flexible, maybe.
Maybe more so back then, anyways.
Yeah.
But speaking of like certain factors that contribute to sight reading, I was actually able to find a pretty cool article on bulletproofmusician.com.
Oh, I like this. I like the title.
Yeah, man. It's an article called "Are Great Sight Readers Born or Made?"
I'm going for made, based on my experience.
Spoiler alert. No, this article is written by a gentleman, Noah Kageyama, PhD. And basically what Noah is doing is he is citing and summarizing a study by Jennifer Mishra, an associate professor at the University of Missouri.
Uh-huh.
Some people call it Missouri. People from Missouri call it Missouri. Have you talked to anyone from Missouri? And said,
I have heard that
we
before.
pronounce it Missouri.
Missouri.
But maybe that's I don't know.
It's a local colloquialism or something.
But I'll go with Missouri since that's what I've always known. Anyways, she put this article. Well, it's a study that is a meta-analysis, which is basically she's combining the stats from different studies that have already been done, to find correlations.
Right.
Okay. So she got the meta-analysis combining about 92 studies, and not all of these were published. Some of these were dissertations, but a good majority of them were published in the journals and stuff like that. And these are all revolving around sight reading. All these studies and the factors that contribute. These studies all involved a combined 154 variables, in other words, like music aptitude, IQ, age, technical ability, type of mode of reading. So in other words, are you reading? Are you sight singing? Are you singing?
Right.
Are you playing an instrument?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
All these little factors that might influence one's sight reading abilities. And of these 154 variables, they were broken them down into 17 main categories. Shall I prattle them out real quick for you?
Sure.
So of these categories, in no particular order of strength, they found music aptitude. I mean, these are all the factors that they were studying mainly. And the chief ones were music aptitude, that is, various musical aptitude. What would you say?
Talents, skills,
yeah.
abilities.
Skills overall, like musicality.
Yeah.
Music study, years of experience studying music. Music knowledge. In other words, theory classes or grades or scores and other music tests and stuff like that. Academic achievement, SAT scores and overall GPA. Ear training ability.
Wow.
IQ. That's a shame for me. That's kind of scary for me. Perception. Some of the some measure of how quickly an individual can perceive stimuli. Like oral stimuli, of course. Psychomotor, and that's reaction time, basically. What else? Sight reading. How good you think you can sight read. Personality. Interesting.
Yeah.
Practice. The amount of general practice time. Technical ability. Age. Attitude, early exposure.
Attitude, that's my problem.
Yeah, well, you'll find out that that's not the problem you thought it was.
Oh, okay.
Spoiler alert. And early exposure, how early you started, because a lot of our listeners are actually a little bit older. They're not all like 14-year-olds trying to learn music theory.
Exactly, yeah.
And memorization ability, which is another red X for me, and improvisation skills.
Yeah.
Okay? So all these things are different factors that they're trying to decide. Now, the results of her study, as Noah Kageyama laid it out for us in such a simple form, or in such a more approachable form, ultimately these findings suggest that one's musicality is more related to one's sight reading powers. So in other words, according to Merriam-Webster, musicality is just one's sensitivity to knowledge of or talent for music, which kind of happens over time.
Right. Yeah, it happens with your exposure to music.
With exposure and practice. The strongest of these factors in order are improvisation skills and ear training ability, followed shortly thereafter by technical ability and music knowledge.
Wow. So the biggest determining factor in how well you sight read is your improvisational skills.
Yeah, which is a shame for me also.
Well, improvisation can be a broad term.
Yeah, it's true.
Followed by your ear training ability, followed by your technical ability on your instrument, followed by your overall music knowledge.
Yes.
So attitude, age, and IQ, and all of those stuff that we think of is keeping us back from being good sight readers is all further down on the list.
Yes, some of the weak.
So that's fascinating.
Absolutely, man, and kind of encouraging for me and a lot of our listeners.
Yeah.
Because some of the less influencing or weakly related factors include things like attitude, personality, early exposure, not as much of a big deal.
Not as big a deal as you think.
Memorization skills, because we're not memorizing, we're learning on the fly.
Yeah.
And perceptive ability. That's like probably a spatial recognition thing, I imagine, or being able to maybe being able to hear.
Yeah.
Either way, not a big deal.
Not as big a deal as you think. Yeah. Yeah, it is very encouraging, and I'm honestly not super surprised by those results. Just knowing the people that I know that are excellent sight readers and what they do, it kind of falls right into line with that.
So after that little bit of encouragement, because it does boil down to what we've been saying all along. What are the three cardinal rules of music?
Practice, practice, practice.
That's the one. Those are they. Now, we have some tips and tricks for you.
Yes, we do.
Matt, you want to take us there, man?
Let's do that. So, you are approaching the skill of sight reading. Right? And, if you go and get a degree in music, you're going to be asked to sight sing.
Yeah.
In oral skills classes.
Yeah.
Nobody gets any kind of music degree without having to do this.
Second scariest thing I had to my jury.
Yeah, and it really doesn't have to be.
No.
It really, really doesn't have to be. But what you're going to be given is something that you ostensibly have never seen before. If you're taking my ear training class, you're going to be given something you've never seen before. So, and asked to just sing it, either in solfege or in scale degree numbers, things like that. And like I say, I teach this class regularly. I have as much experience teaching this as I do teaching anything, actually. And I have seen a lot of people come up and start trying to sight sing, which is the same skill as sight reading, right? I've seen a lot of them come up and try to sight sing and just fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they're bad musicians.
Uh-huh.
Certainly not because they're dumb people. They're very smart people.
Uh-huh.
But because what they did was kind of go, okay, here I go. They start at the beginning, and they just start trying to sing the melody, one note to the next, get the right note, get the right note, get the right note, get the right note, and hopefully they make it all the way to the end. Problem is they never make it to the end. That works right up until the first thing that's kind of tricky, and then crash. They trip over that, and then they trip over the thing immediately after that. And then they trip over the thing immediately after that. And then there's the second kind of tricky part thing. And now it's just...
Before they know it, they're at the bottom of the stairwell.
Yeah, really. Before they know it, they have just... And, some of them just completely fall apart and like, yeah, nailed it.
Yeah.
Most of them realize it fell apart. Right? And feel bad about themselves. And to prevent that, there are some pretty simple, easy steps. Some pretty simple, easy things that you can do to... not trip over that. Right? So don't just jump up and start trying to play.
Right.
Or sing. The first thing you want to do is look at the tune. Analyze the tune. Notice the key signature that you're about to play in. What key does it indicate? Is it, 2 flats, 3 sharps, whatever? What is the tonic note? On what line or space of the music is that tonic note?
So we're kind of using our theory brain to analyze this.
Absolutely. We're doing just a quick scan, like a quick 2-second analysis of just what the music is. Notice your key signature. Notice where the tonic note is. And that line or space where the tonic note is, to me, it almost comes like, it's almost like you should look at it and it should float up from the page just a little bit. It should look bigger in your eyes than the other ones, because that's tonic.
Yeah.
Dominant should a little bit too.
You're talking about, you're looking at the notation, you're talking about that one line or space where that thing rests.
Yeah, that one line across the entire staff should look kind of bigger and wavier.
Emboss a little bit from the page.
Because meter, same thing. Like we were saying with rhythmic dictation earlier. What's our meter signature? What note gets the beat? How many beats are there in a measure? Get that counting clicking along in somewhere in the back in your sort of old mammalian brain or wherever. Get that clicking along back there already. Right? Key signature, meter. Note your phrases. Note what notes your phrases are ending on. Most phrases, 4 measures, 8 measures. See where you go for a while with notes that are the same length, and then all of a sudden there's a longer one. It's kind of going to indicate the end of a phrase. If you're going quarter eighth, eighth, quarter eighth, and then you see a half note.
Yeah.
That was probably the end of a phrase there.
Yeah, little period.
And did you end on a half cadence, and that note is sol? Scale degree 5 or scale degree 2, which is a chord tone of the dominant.
Any member of the chord tone, yeah.
Yeah. So
any member of the chord, yeah.
Yeah, get a sense of where you're headed. What note you're going to end that phrase on. Because music is really phrasing, right? It's not just notes. Do that. Recurring motives. Is there anything that happens more than once, that is repeated? that makes stuff easy. Just sing the same thing again.
Right. Right.
Is there anything that is a melodic sequence going up or going down? That also makes things easy. Believe it or not, because you don't really have to worry about the rhythm as much.
So you're studying the contours.
Yeah, studying the contours. And
finding little moments of replication.
Yeah.
Moments of repetition.
Yeah, you may also want to ask yourself: does it begin on the tonic, or does it begin on some other note? Does it end on the tonic, or does it end on some other note?
Does it end in what we thought was the tonic? What if we're singing a single sharp and we think that we're in the key of G, but maybe we're in the key of E minor?
Maybe we're in the key of E minor. How do we ever even figure that out? Well, we figure that out by looking at our phrases.
Yeah.
If a melody starts on G, you may think that it's in G, but if the last phrase ends on a B, or the first phrase ends on a B, and then the second phrase ends on a B to E, I'm not going to make a strong case that that's in G major.
Yeah.
That's going to feel like E minor to me.
Absolutely.
So, quick 10-second analysis. Figure all of these things out.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of things for your brain to be doing at first glance, right?
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen overnight. This is your musicality coming into play. Your music knowledge coming into play.
The practice part.
Yeah, the practice part. Have you ever heard of those studies where people hook musicians up to an fMRI while they're playing and like their whole brain lights up?
Yeah.
Well, this is why. This is why. Once you've done that, orient yourself to the key. I like to just, maybe just do a tonic chord, and then, or maybe I'll do a little. All right, and now I kind of know where do is. Do, and then I'll do little vocal exercises like do, do, re, mi, re, do, ti, do, mi, so, mi, do, ti, do, re, ti, do, la, so, do, mi, re, do. Yeah, and just get yourself oriented to that key.
Home base.
Get that key in your ears. And functioning in your brain. Orient yourself to the key, and don't just sing do. A lot of people will do, and then think they're oriented.
Oh yeah, okay, not that easy.
Not quite. Sing up and down the scale. Sing a little, improvise some. They talk about how improvising in that study you cited is so integral.
Yeah,
improvise some little melodies up and down.
Wow. Orient
yourself to that key. And then maybe sing it silently to yourself a little bit before even if you're actually saying, well, I'm not singing, I'm supposed to be playing this on my instrument or whatever. Well, still sort of sing it to yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Sing it to yourself and see and have an idea of what the melody ought to sound like.
Which also is a thing that doesn't happen overnight. Singing notes to yourself, I mean, to me it's easier said than done, but it can be done.
It can definitely be done. And again, to drive home the idea of how important improvisation is. When I was in college, I used to just kind of walk down the street making up melodies to sing in solfege in my head.
Or on that hour-and-a-half drive to Montgomery, right?
Or on that 2-hour drive to Montgomery. Have I mentioned that before? I guess I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good story.
Do, re, mi, re, fa, mi, re, ti. Yeah. That was wrong.
That's not minor, didn't
it? But you get the idea. Yeah, it's
do, re.
Yeah.
Do, re, mi, na.
Re, do, ti, re, do. See, I didn't orient myself to the key. That was the problem. But yeah, you're going to have to get used to being a nerd if you want to be a musician. Musicians are nerds.
This is your safe place.
This is a safe space.
Come and nerd out with us.
Yes, no one is going to judge you on this podcast. Believe me, We've done nerdier stuff. I mean, Jeremy bought a bazooki, for crying out loud.
The water is just fine.
So yeah. But go around singing to yourself. Sing up and down scales, sing up and down arpeggios. Make up little melodies. Sing melodies that are stuck in your head. Try to figure out what the scale degrees are, or what the solfege syllables to those are.
Right.
And then go to the piano or your instrument or whatever and test yourself and see how close you got.
Yeah.
These things are all important, and they're all practicing leading up to this moment where you're silently singing to yourself before you get ready to sight read.
Yeah.
So that you will have an idea of what this melody is supposed to be like.
Now let me throw something at you. When we had our sight reading exams, and this is not something, not everyone's gonna be taking exams for sight reading. Some people just want to know.
Some of us aren't as masochistic as we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was by force.
Sweating bullets, man. Sweating bullets.
So, if you're sitting there and a professor just gives you this piece of paper, I assume they're going to give you time to look over it and analyze it. You might not have time to play it and orient yourself to the key. You might just be standing there in front of your professor.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to say, you're not going to get a chance to say, hey, can I take this down to the practice room for an hour?
Sure, that's not sight reading.
But, hopefully you'll be given a few seconds, that you're not going to be just rushing and say, sing it now,
Enough for the kind of initial scan with all those little kind of factors on the back of your mind while you're scanning this piece of music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's very, very important.
Yep.
So we have analyzed our tune, key, meter, phrases, anything that's repeating, anything that's a sequence, anything that's potentially tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a good time to realize, oh, that's going to be mess me up, and maybe sing that part to yourself up and down a little bit, or play it a little bit, or, just kind of finger it or something, just to get that down. It's a good time to do that. Oriented yourself to the key.
Yeah.
Got yourself good and in that key. You've sung it to yourself a little bit. It is now time to sing it for the first time, up and out. And it may not be perfect.
Remain calm.
Yeah.
There's a t-shirt. Sight-sing this and remain calm.
Sight-sing this and remain calm. Stand up and confidence is 90% of anything. Act like you know what you're doing.
You can fool yourself.
You absolutely can. Yeah, absolutely.
I do it anytime I open my mouth in front of people.
Hey, man, you just described my job.
Yeah, right. If you can fool yourself well enough, you can fool them.
You can fool anybody else.
And you can say, I fooled them again.
I fooled them again. They think I know stuff. That's silly. Okay, but anyway, sing it. And it may not be perfect. But if you've done all of these things, what you will have done is set yourself up in good position to avoid that scenario I described earlier, where, that first kind of little tricky thing kind of messes you up, and then you just kind of collapse in on yourself. You've also set yourself up to make this a little less stressful, because your brain isn't having to go, oh God, what's that note? Oh God, what's that note? Oh God, what's that note? With every new note.
Yeah.
You've set yourself up to be looking sort of big picture.
Which I think is a mistake I got into early on.
Yeah, me too.
Taking it note by note.
Yeah, me too, yeah. And, music doesn't really work that way. I don't think our brains really work that way. I mean, when you're... And, we've seen stuff on the internet all over the place where, come to find out, you can read a sentence where the letters of every word have been completely rearranged.
Yeah, or omitted.
Yeah, or omitted, but as long as the word starts and ends on the right letter, you still know that word.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because your brain is doing this kind of big picture thing.
It's filling in the blanks.
Yeah, it's going to do that when you're sight reading too. And if you've oriented yourself to the key and to the cadences, and you kind of know this big picture thing, it's going to be easier for you to know what. And like I said, it may not be perfect the first time. Abrupt rhythm changes get me to this day. They will mess me up. If I go from eighth notes to dotted quarter and an eighth, I'm gone. I'm done. Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So
Let's talk about that, because we were talking earlier. We were saying there are some things that are a little trickier and a little harder to process.
Yeah.
And one thing that I think got both myself and Matt, because we both had the same bass instructor, Cleve Eaton, and he started us off kind of at the top of the fake book, which All of Me is in there.
Yeah.
Who wrote that? Do you remember?
No. Oh man. Our bass teacher would be yelling at us right now.
But anyways, All of Me included this quarter note triplet that at the time that was the first time I'd come across the quarter note triplet.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. Does it cease to be a quarter note if you can fit 3 of them in the space where you fit 2 of them, right? It's like a 33.3% note.
Yeah, it's yeah, quarter note triplets, man. Yeah, those. But they're kind of a feel though, right?
That's what, the whole corporal thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
That's when it was almost more of a sway.
Yeah.
I had to kind of almost move my body to feel it.
Move yourself beyond trying to mathematically shoot ducks in a barrel, right? And get it right in the right time. And feel this kind of thing. It's a corporeal thing.
Yeah.
And your body can help you play the correct rhythms. Matthew.
And syncopate. Yeah, going back to Matthew's question, this does go back to listening for rhythms and stuff like that.
Yeah. Your body can help you sing the right notes.
Yeah.
Especially if you're well oriented to that key.
Very good.
So you sing it. You do pretty good. Maybe it's not perfect. Now's the time to evaluate. Go back over that performance and rate yourself.
Okay.
Say, well, where did I mess up? What was awkward? What could I do better? Right?
Which step did I fall down first?
Yeah, which step or what did I stumble on if I didn't crash and burn? Hopefully you didn't do that. But where did I stumble? And can I smooth that up and tighten that up on the next go around? Sing it again.
Sing it again. Rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat. Evaluate that performance. Could I get it just a little bit tighter? Then once again, sing it again. And it's going to get closer and closer to perfect every time, right?
And we all have varying levels of, ear training and whatnot. But for the most part, it isn't too difficult to know when you're singing. You feel it when you're singing the right thing. Right?
You do. It's corporeal. Yeah. You feel it. You feel it. You know when you're saying.
When you're locked into the proper frequencies.
When you're locked into the proper frequencies and things, and when you know that you sang the note you were hitting, it is possible to know in a very corporeal sense and without a shadow of a doubt that you sang a thing, and that is definitely easy to do. And it may not necessarily be the right thing. You may have sang sol la sol when what you meant was mi fa mi.
Yeah.
But sol la sol is a thing.
Yeah.
Right. So scale degree 5, scale degree 6, scale degree 5.
Okay.
There. Wherein what you were supposed to be singing was. Yeah. I mean that kind of thing can happen. Which is why we constantly really evaluate, check ourselves against, engage our theory brains and say, did I sing the scale degrees that are represented here? And like I said, a lot of us, I learned the solfege, the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do system. Jeremy, you just learned numbers.
I learned the number
system. You learned
system.
to sing the scale degrees.
And now I'm trying to get into the solfege system because it's proving to be kind of useful in terms of vowel sounds and.
Yeah, I've always thought both systems have advantages.
There's more of a technical know-how with the number system.
Yeah, well, they relate directly back to the scale degrees, so it relates to theory.
Yeah,
it's easy to understand that this is scale degree 3, the third note of a scale, and all that means theory-wise. When you're using the number systems, and when you sing 3, 5, 7, that's a 3 chord. It's easy to mesh all those when you're just using the same system basically for both.
Yeah.
I think
you can add and subtract numbers. You can't do that with syllables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. With syllables, though, it's easier to have sort of a feel for the relationship between them.
Yeah.
The way mi and fa is a half step apart. And the way soul also quote unquote sounds.
Yeah.
It's a sound that just gets in your brain. Do mi sol becomes a sound. It's not just numbers.
Yeah.
Be those numbers scale degrees or whatever. It becomes kind of a sound. And you start associating.
It's more intimate with the music, do you think? Is it more intimate with the music using solfege?
Yeah. That's probably fair to say. In a way, it can be more intimate with the music, and like I said, just in a way, you can. It sort of, it makes you more intimate with the music.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there are advantages to both. Really, really good music students will eventually become bilingual.
Yeah. There you go. Which is what I'm working on.
Yeah.
Now, in conjunction with these wonderful tips that you were able to provide, I was able to find this little blog here on a site called yourmusiclessons.com. This was written by a gentleman named Brian Jenkins.
Okay.
And he just kind of has a list of tips, and there's going to be some bleed over, I'm sure, between your list, but I'll try and, if I see something new and different, I'll holler it out for you.
Awesome.
First of all, obviously, learn to read. You can't sight read.
That helps.
Learn to crawl. Learn chords. Learn chords.
Because even if you're playing a melodic instrument, melodies are based in chords. We've kind of talked about this a little bit before, right?
Yeah, if you can spot an arpeggio or if you can spot a chord, like a chord structure or shape, it'll help you fill in the blanks if you know where you are.
I mean, if you're trying, you're never going to sight read. You're never going to sight read that melody.
Yeah.
If you're trying to think note to, that's a chord, right?
Yes.
That's a B minor chord. Yeah. So.
Very good. Moving on, of course, learning music theory. That's why we're all here.
Yep.
That's part of it. Study rhythms. Now this goes back again to Matthew Frederick.
Yeah. Whose rhythmic dictation is not making him happy right now.
Yeah. And rightly so, because it doesn't really make a lot of people happy until it finally starts to gel. I'm still working on that too.
It's a weak spot of mine too.
Hey man, if you put down like a Charlie Parker piece in front of me, I'm gonna need a good hour maybe with all those syncopations.
Oh man.
And all the leaps and being all over the place.
Dude, I'd need a good week.
Yeah,
a good month.
I might have been being too kind to myself.
Yeah.
So learn technique. There's another one. That's just a part of getting everything under your fingers, in the proper intended way, in the most efficient way.
Yeah. If we can jump back for just a minute on the rhythm thing.
Please.
We should probably say, rhythm has a almost sort of special kind of solfege on its own, right? I mean, we think 1 E ana for 16th notes, right? 1 E ana, 2 E ana.
Yeah, there's almost a certain kind of language.
Yeah, and in 6/8 we say 1 la li, 2 la li. And then 16th notes in 6/8 is 1 ta la ta lita, 2 ta la ta lita.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. Familiarize yourself with that language.
Yeah.
So that you can look at a rhythmic figure and say, oh, that's just 1 ta la li.
Yeah.
1 ta la li.
That, my friend, is a la talita.
That, my friend, is a la talita. There's a great passage in the intro music to a very popular show on HBO right now about robots.
Oh.
And there's a great passage where he goes, where the music goes from 1 ta la ta li, 1 ta la ta li, 2 ta la ta li, 1 ta la ta li, 2 ta la ta li, to 1 ta la ta, 2 ta la ta, 1 ta la ta, 2 ta la ta, 1 ta la ta li, 2 ta la ta li, 1 ta la ta li, 2 ta la ta li, 1 ta la ta, 2 ta li ta.
I think I want some Mexican food right now.
You're making me hungry. Yeah, I saw a video not long ago with these Indian musicians playing Indian music, Carnatic music, and they were
East Indian or American Indian?
East Indian. And they were doing some incredible stuff with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because their rhythmic system is really designed around that idea more than the beat and meter thing of the way. So familiarize yourself with that language so you can look at something and see, well, this is a 1 iana, or this is a 1 ana, and that will help as well.
I had the pleasure of seeing Ravi Shankar and his daughter Anushka at the Alice Stevens Center.
Ah.
And man, their percussionists, they did such cool stuff with their percussions.
Oh man, yeah.
And it was interesting, when they weren't playing, they were actually still doing this count where they had their hand on their knee and they're kind of going, hand palm down was like, or I guess palm up was the upbeat and palm down was the downbeat. It was
I've seen that too, and I don't know much about it. I would like to learn more about.
So the pulses in their body and in their movements.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Oh yeah. Corporeal.
Yeah, man. And back to these little tips here. Of course, practice every day. We all know practice.
Practice every day. Yep.
Practice with a metronome. We haven't actually touched on that.
You should do that.
It should go without saying, but a lot of people don't.
I don't. I should.
But even if you're not practicing with a metronome, maybe you're tapping your foot.
Yeah.
You gotta
at least be doing that.
Yeah.
You know, that metronome is much more unforgiving than your foot is going to be.
Yeah, totally.
You know, which can be a good thing, especially if you're trying to get to professional level playing ability. You know.
Public service announcement: if you're driving, don't tap your feet.
Don't tap your foot on the brake. I knew a drummer once who used to do that. It was just.
Oh, but you can be a car drummer. There's this really cute viral video going around where this guy gets into a car dealership, and he's actually just like, he hits the wheel, he hits the dashboard, he's checking the acoustics of the car. Oh, this is my car. Oh, the snare's kind of flat. He's like popping the... And I do that myself. I find myself drumming and tapping on my steering wheel.
Yeah.
With my fist, I pound for the kick drum, and then I open it up and slap for the snare, and then my left hand is keeping the hi-hat.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because your right hand's supposed to keep the hi-hat, I guess.
Yeah, well...
Flipping it up.
Hopefully you're also driving, you know, minding the road, obey all the...
Oh, yeah. There's that, too.
Jeremy's just kidding. He keeps his hand on 10 and 2 at all times.
Public service announcement. Forget everything I just said. But always be tapping your foot, unless you're in the car. So we got that. We got improve your relative pitch and sight singing skills. That's all ear training.
Yeah, and again, that can only help you.
Yeah, you won't know what a soul looks like unless you have checked it out many times.
Yeah, unless you've sung that about a gajillion times in your life.
Oh, practice without a metronome. That goes back to the foot tapping or just feeling it.
Yeah, at some point it can no longer be a crutch.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, okay. There you go. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the gist of it, really.
Yeah.
But it was a good little blog. I mean, we're just naming the subtitles of each, but he goes into detail.
Yeah.
So yourmusiclessons.com, that's another cool resource we found. Thank you, Brian Jenkins.
Indeed.
Dare we show them an example of where you play a melody and then I analyze it and try to notate it?
Okay.
Not even worrying about sight reading.
Okay.
This is for our friend Matthew Frederick.
All right, so let me find a good, challenging one.
What you got there?
I have a textbook full of melodies.
Just kind of sight reading melodies?
Yes.
Little grab bag?
Yep. So I want to find a good rhythmic one.
No quarter note triplets.
No quarter note triplets, I promise.
No 30-second note triplets.
Oh, come on, man.
And if you do, play it at 60 BPM.
Oh, you can do 16th note triplets.
Adagio, please.
Okay. So this is a fairly simple exercise.
Okay. I have here my notation notebook. I got a brand new... Finally got myself a brand new notation notebook.
And so we're just doing rhythm, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll just do rhythm. And so I'll give you a break. I'll tell you the time signature.
Hey, tell me this. Should we do both rhythm and melody?
Yeah, let's do rhythm and then let's do melody.
Okay, let's do that.
Right. So we'll do of the same melody you want to do?
Yes.
Okay.
All
right.
one thing.
So I'll give you some hints. First of all, I'll tell you that this is in 2/4.
2/4.
I will tell you that it is in D major.
D major. 2 sharps.
Mm-hmm.
F sharp and C sharp.
Yep. This is a good time to be orienting yourself to that key. I will tell you that the first note is tonic, aka do.
There's my tonic.
So orient yourself to that key. Do, re, mi, re, do, ti, re, do, so, mi, re, do.
Okay.
Yep. I'll even tell you that this begins with a 2/16th note pickup.
Oh, crap. That's all right. I can do that.
You can do it.
I can do that.
You can do it. So, I'm going to give you almost 2 measures for nothing.
Okay.
But you're going to start hearing notes on that last 8th note of that second measure.
Because it's a pickup.
Because it's a pickup.
Very good.
Ready?
Shall I count with you or what? Are you doing the counting? Or are we just feeling it?
Yeah, just count in your head.
Okay.
Yeah, and listeners at home, count in your head.
But for effect, I'll count for the listeners, right?
No.
No?
Count in your
Okay.
head.
All right. We're going authentic here.
Yeah. All right. Ready?
I'm scared.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, including that pickup note, we have like 2 notes, 2 16th notes on the pickup, leading into a quarter note.
Eighth.
Oh no, an 8th note on the downbeat of the first official measure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because, if you're thinking 1 and 2 and 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1, right?
Yeah, so the 1 is going to have that longer note, that 8th note.
Yeah.
And then the pickup to the second beat is going to have a 16th note pickup kind of thing.
Yeah, 2 16th note pickup, yeah.
So it's really this pattern of 1 and 2, da, da, da.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
So I will label that accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
And then that pattern kind of repeats basically throughout the whole thing. Can I hear it one more time now?
Yeah. Yeah, let's listen again.
Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it repeated almost the entire thing with one tiny variation. One time when we didn't do it. Yeah.
So it's na 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 na.
Yeah.
Na.
Yeah, there you go.
Na 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 na.
Yeah. So basically, there was one time when we skipped our annas.
Yes,
and there was a full quarter note.
And that was at the end of the phrase, right?
Yes, it was. Remember what I said about you're going to get longer notes at the end? We've had eighths and 2/16, eighth and 2/16, and then at the end of a phrase we have a quarter note. So this is where we're leading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys can't see the notation that I'm doing here, but it's spot on, I guarantee you. But yeah, I think we kind of clarified the process to some degree. I mean, we got a rhythmic idea.
Yeah.
We kind of counted it out, and we kind of made it into non-melodic ta-ta-ta, ta-ta-ta.
Get the rhythms first.
And what I did at the top of the page, right on the top of each line.
Yeah.
Without even keeping the notation in.
Without even worrying about the notes.
I'm writing the rhythmic values. I'm writing 2 16th notes and then an 8th note and then so forth. So these have no lines. These have no musical.
Yeah.
Or tonal.
These have no These have no note connotations to
yes.
them. They're just the rhythms.
Yes. And then what I did was I heard a repeating theme, a contour that kind of goes up and then starts back down from a little bit later, a little bit behind, and then kind of goes up, kind of like that scale exercise that we do.
Yeah, it's we have a big fancy name for that in music theory.
What you call that?
It's a melodic sequence.
A melodic sequence. Yeah. Yes, it is.
Right, and then right there at the end of the phrase we skip, and then.
And I felt like we ended on what sounded like a pretty authentic cadence.
Yep, an octave from where we began.
Yeah. Right up the scale. Very good.
Yeah. So. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Half cadence on the dominant.
Yes.
So, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Authentic cadence.
Now, in the case of melodic dictation and rhythmic dictation, I'm looking at nothing. I'm actually doing my best to notate this on my blank piece of notation paper.
Yeah.
Whereas in the case of sight reading, you're given something to read.
You're given this melody and asked to sing it.
To sing it, yeah.
So do you think you could sing this melody?
It starts with a 1. No. I'm probably not with solfege, but I think I could do it with numbers.
You want to do it in numbers?
I'll try.
1, 1, 1. We can do it together if you want.
We can try.
You want to do it together?
Or do you want to play it while I sing it, or both of us?
Nah, I want to just sing it.
Okay.
All right. So we'll both sing it. We'll see how this works.
Okay.
Ready?
Are you going to sing solfege while I sing numbers?
No, I'll sing numbers with you.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
Uh-huh.
All right, so let's orient ourselves to the key.
I'm going to write in this thing and erase it.
1, 7,
1, 5, 1.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
1. All right, almost 2 measures for nothing.
Okay.
Ready?
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 1.
And you said 7, I said 7, but 7 is actually
I say
easier.
sev just to have it was a single syllable, but
Single
same
syllable.
basic idea.
Yeah, that was not bad.
Yeah, see, we're getting better every time, right?
Yeah. So yeah.
So the art of sight singing. There are jazz bands. I once heard the Count Basie's orchestra. Whenever they were given a new set of parts to something they had not played before, sat around and sang their parts like this before they ever picked up their instruments.
Oh, did they?
That's what I heard once from somebody who used to play in that orchestra.
Yeah, well, I think he would know, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Well, that hopefully gives you some idea of melodic dictation, rhythmic dictation, which is kind of the flip side of the coin, or the same side of sight reading and being able to read music and determine rhythms and pitches from looking at the notes.
Yeah. Any problems, questions, ideas, please always let us know.
Well, I do have a couple of resources.
All right, let's hear it.
Like we said earlier, there's this app called Musician that I've been kind of using lately because I wanted to get my piano. I've been playing as a bassist, mainly bass lines, you know? And then I learned those melodies, those jigs and stuff with the bouzouki. But those still involve just either one melody. You know, I know chords, I know how to play chords. But I wanted to be able to work my mind to where I'm actually doing a piano parts where sometimes it involves 4 parts plus happening at one time.
Right.
You know? So this app, Musician, kind of gets you started very early on, and you can actually do a setting to where it's notation. You're reading proper music. You can change the speeds.
Nice.
They start you off with very simple melodies, but they do throw in a couple of syncopations and surprises in there for you to kind of keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
But that's a great little app, and of course it's a paid like monthly thing. You know, you can either pay. I paid like $120 for the whole year to make myself do it. That hasn't entirely worked out like I hoped, but once you pay for it, it's like, oh, it's paid for. I'm not gonna. But I've been trying to actually. I'll keep you guys, keep you guys up with my progress on that thing.
Nice. Very nice.
And you can do piano, guitar, bass, and ukulele right now are the main things that they have on that.
Sweet.
There's this other cool website I came across called the Sight Reading Project. Now, members of the community upload examples and challenges with various levels of difficulty, and then people just coming to the site can see, hey, what are the ones today?
Oh, that's a great resource.
Yeah, so it's all kind of randomized.
Yeah, that'd be a great way to practice. Practice sight reading every day and just have a new thing every day. That would really put you through your paces, depending on your difficulty level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll just read you the kind of blurb that they have on the site just to give you an idea of what to expect. It says, quote, from the Sight Reading Project, this site is an online library of user-created music sight reading exercises. No account is needed to practice, but a free account allows users to contribute to the searchable database of exercises, access advanced search capabilities, and create learning communities where exercises can be bookmarked and sequenced for students.
I love it.
So free, but I think that there's advantages to donating. They have like, not unlike us, it's a free service, but they appreciate donations.
Yeah, we understand.
And then finally, I will say our great friends at Musical U.
Absolutely.
Chris Sutton and the team, they have a great, and again, another paid service. But it is
well worth it if you're serious about wanting to improve your musical skills. They do a great work.
In fact, just last night I did the module on rhythm. It put me through some of those paces, but it was very cool, very well laid out the way they did it.
Absolutely.
And if you can't afford the monthly fee for their service, they also have a great podcast called the Musicality Podcast.
Indeed, yeah.
Where they talk to a bunch of different musicians and just get inside the musician's brain.
Yeah,
Undoubtedly,
they even talked to us Yahoos once.
They did, man. It was actually a pretty darn good episode. But part of getting inside the musician's brain is to ask them questions about things like this and how they handle it.
Absolutely.
So check that out. It's a great resource. Okay, I think it's time for the recap.
Recap. Okay, so sight reading is scary.
It is scary.
You can make it less scary by, rather than just jumping in and start trying to sight read and hope you do it right, which, spoiler, a lot of times you won't. Do a few little rules, a little sort of about to play ritual, if you will, to help you understand what you're about to try to do. Number 1, analyze the tune you're about to play. Notice the scale, which means also noticing the key signature. Notice the meter. Notice where tonic is. Also, ideally, where dominant is too would also help.
Yeah.
Phrases. Now, notice where your phrases begin and end. On what notes your phrases begin and end, so you know where you're sort of headed. Like in that example, our first phrase was sort of headed to 5, and then our second phrase was sort of headed to back up to 1, right? Orient yourself to the key. Sing the tonic note. Play the tonic note, and then sing the tonic note. But then, make up a little phrase. Kind of go up and down the scale a little bit. Get the scale in your ear. And sing arpeggios too. Those can also help in that. Then sort of silently sing it to yourself.
Yeah.
Silently look over and silently imagine what this piece of music you're looking at ought to sound like in your head.
Yeah.
Then you're ready for your first attempt to go and play it.
Right.
Or sing it. Sing it, play it. In some situations, conceivably, that's going to be as good as you get a chance to do. But if you do have a chance, reevaluate. Mentally go over what was the tricky areas. What kind of you could nail down a little better. And maybe play through those a couple of times if you have the chance. At the very least, be concentrating on those the next time around.
Speaking of those trouble spots, you can actually do like a little preemptive strike. Part of your analyzing the tune when you first look at it,
right?
Is you're going to be looking at some of these trouble.
Yeah, look for things that are trouble. If you're a singer and you're having to sing down a minor seventh, that's tough.
That's tough,
right? Yeah,
big leaps.
Yeah, have a strategy for that going into. Going into that. If you're a guitarist, going from just playing melodies to all of a sudden having to play a big chord, know what that chord is and where it is before you get it, so you're not having to figure it out in the seconds between notes.
Right.
So yeah, do that, then play to yourself, evaluate, and then play again. And then rinse and repeat. And every time it will get a little closer to perfect.
Yeah. It's all about engaging your theory brain.
Yeah, engage your theory brain and your corporeal body.
Yeah.
Into kind of the theme for today.
Yeah, there you go, man. The brain and the body and the balance betwixt.
Yep.
And we also talked about some pretty cool articles that you guys should go to check out. This whole thing about this article on bulletproofmusician.com, Noah Kageyama put together kind of a summary of this study.
I'm going to go check that out.
But if you want to check out the study, it is available. I found it on something called, it was on a website called Sage Journals, and the name of the study or the meta-analysis was Factors Related to Sight Reading Accuracy by Jennifer Mishra or Mishra. And you can buy the article, I think, for about $30 or something like that, or you can subscribe to the journals if you really want to get into it.
Yeah, that's kind of typical for those.
You can get a summary of the study, but then you have to, if you really want to get into the numbers and nerd out, as we like to do, it does cost a bit. Thank you to our good friend Noah Kageyama for breaking it all down for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for all your hard work.
And what they found in that study was basically of all these different factors that might aid and assist or whatever for sight reading, they found that some of the more influential things happen to be improvisation skills, ear training ability, technical ability, and music knowledge, which is all part of musicality, right? And then the less influencing or more weakly related factors included attitude, personality, early exposure, memorization skills, and so
Yeah,
forth.
the big takeaway for me, at least, being no one is a born sight reader.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing inherent about you, not your IQ, not how old you were when you started playing or anything like that, that is preventing you from being a good sight reader or a good musician.
And even if you have photographic memory, the first time you read it, that's only the first time you're sight reading it. So photographic memory doesn't help at all.
I don't even know if photographic memory would make you a particularly good sight reader, because even if you could remember exactly what the notes on the page looked like,
you still have to.
you still have to be able to translate them,
execute
right?
it.
Yeah, you still have to be able to execute it.
So yeah, pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And I hope for you guys that was enough to get you a little kickstart, a little jump start.
Yeah, hopefully that helps. Keep your questions and comments coming. We love them.
Yeah. If you want to help us out, you can donate to patreon.com. Look up Music Student 101.
Absolutely.
There's like a monthly subscription.
Yes.
We put up a couple of cool little posts just special for our Patreon people, and we hope to do something more special for them down the road. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink,
There's
nudge,
some
nudge.
cool stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
And and then info at musicstudent101.com if you want to contact us and tell us about some of your sight reading
Yes, adventures.
adventures
Let's do
and
that.
tips.
Yeah.
Maybe you have your own tips that have helped you out.
All right, so then until next time.
Until next time.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Let us know how your sight reading is progressing at info@musicstudent101.com. For links to the mentioned articles and studies, check our website at musicstudent101.com. And don't forget, if you wish to help us with a monthly donation, however big or small, you can do so at patreon.com.